Oh, what is there to talk about? What is there to talk about? Walking home, decided I was going to do this video. Well, not walking home, walking to work. Decided I was going to make this video. You can barely see me because it is dark. But this is good. That way you don't have to worry about paying attention about how I look and worry about more on what's being said, which is the only thing you should be worried about anyway, but I digress. And I meant to talk about this earlier, but I got sidetracked doing other things, errands, trying to finish up some projects, and I didn't have time to live stream and talk about it like I want to. I may still talk about it, in the morning and during sunrise, but as of right now, I'm gonna just talk about it in this. Helps me pass the time. Now, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before this actually took place, but I know I seen it yesterday, and it kind of threw me the fuck for a loop. That Ryan Ramirez. Now, if anybody who watches fighting game tournaments, especially during like the earlier, since like 2014 to like 2018, in between that time, even like before 2014, but if you started watching fighting games around the time of, say, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 tournaments and Street Fighter 4 tournaments, around that time, then the name Ryan Ramirez should be very, very familiar for you. And if you don't know him by his real name, maybe you know him by his alias, which is Filipino Champ. It was announced, I think a couple days ago, officially, that Filipino Champ it was announced by Capcom that Filipino Champ was going to be banned globally from any tournament held by them. And then I believe the tournament organizers for East Coast Throwdown and Jabali, who runs the tournament CEO, that event, they joined in on it as well. And they said, okay, since Capcom banned him for the reasons that they banned him for, they were going to follow suit and they were going to ban him from their events as well. I don't believe anybody else came out and said that they were going to ban him, but those three were the main three that Capcom, East Coast Throwdown, and CEO, those are the main three that decided that they were going to ban him. And yeah, man, it's crazy. Jabali, I think he was the first. No, I think East Coast Throwdown, after Capcom, East Coast Throwdown had decided that they were going to ban him as well. And then right after that, Jabali had followed suit with a retweet saying, I don't know if it was Jabali first or if it was the East Coast Throwdown, I don't know, or the Hato, excuse me. That's the tournament organizer for East Coast Throwdown. But basically all three of them eventually came out and said they were going to ban him. Now, what they banned him for, and I watched Filipino Champ's Twitch, where he explained what happened. He made a racially insensitive meme. Like, he made a racially insensitive tweet, right? And, he admitted it. Like, he doesn't hide from the fact that he did the shit, like, but he didn't mean any harm by it. I'm just saying this on his behalf because this is what he said. And I'm just, reiterating what he said before I go into what I'm going to say. So he, he lives with, I believe he said, I don't know how big the house is that he lives in, but he said he lives with like 6 other black people, right? And one of the black guys he lives with, I forgot the name of the guy, excuse me. But he said his wife had came home from Safeway. Now, if you're familiar with Safeway, that's like grocery store out here in California. I don't know if they have it anywhere else, but they have it here in California. So one of the guys' wife had his wife had came from Safeway, and she brought home this giant watermelon and shit like that. You know, and with Filipino Champ, I mean, obviously, as his name implies, as his alias implies, you know, he's Filipino. He's an islander, you know, and islanders, you know, like they love their fruits, like they love pineapples, they love melons, watermelons, things like that, you know. And he said that, you know, it was a big watermelon. And he said, he was explaining to the guy's wife, he said, you know how crazy islanders would go for this? You know, and I think it was like late in the night, he was a little bit inebriated or whatever. He wasn't talking crazy, but amongst the black people that he was living with, they were cutting the watermelon and I guess they were eating it. And then he said, you know, hey man, watermelon lives matter, right? Now, everybody in the household, mind you, he lives with 6 other black people. He's the only non-black person in that household, you know, and, you know, he said that everybody's laughing. And as he's explaining this, you know, there's black people around him. I mean, of course, they're off the cam, but there's black people living with him. I'm pretty sure if anybody was going to say that he was lying, they would have came in there and they would have checked him on that, but none of them ever did. So obviously there's some truth to it, right? There's truth to it. So he's telling the truth. Otherwise they would have said something to him, right? But where he messed up, he said, was that, you know, by him living with them for a number of years that he's been living with them, they understand that he's, you know, he's not racist. And again, when he made the watermelon lies joke, they laughed. They, you know, they were having fun. You know, they were laughing. 6 other black guys and the one Filipino dude, you know, I guess because they understand his personality and they know he's not, you know, because if again, like I'm gonna continue on with what he said. So where he messed up is that, you know, again, he may be a little inebriated or just wasn't thinking too clearly because it was late in the night when he did this. He wasn't thinking clearly and he didn't realize that, you know, everybody doesn't understand his personality. And 2, there's other people there there's other people in this world. This is a highly sensitive fucking world, right? He didn't say this, but I'm saying it. This is a highly sensitive world. So you can't be sharing everything with everybody. Whatever you share with in the comfort of your circle, you know what I'm saying, black friends or not, it was meant to be kept within that circle because somebody somewhere else is going to look at that different if they don't know you personally and they don't understand you personally. So what happened is that he took that and he made a meme and he put it on, I don't know if it was just a tweet or if he made a meme and he said watermelon lives matter. When that happened, of course, somebody seen it, somebody got offended, and Capcom announced that, you know, they were banning him from all his tournaments globally. Then East Coast Throwdown followed up and said he's banned from their event. Then Jabali from CEO, the tournament organizer for CEO, announced that he was banning him from that event as well. So that's the controversy. Now here's my retort to that. A lot of people was calling this dude racist as hell. My thing is this: if the 6 black people that he lives with, right? And I think they stay in like a big mansion or something. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it's like a sponsor, like a team sponsored house or something like that. I don't know, but he lives in a pretty big house, I'm assuming. And he lives with 6 other people, all of them black guys, right? He says this joke and all of them laugh, right? And of course, they've been knowing him for a number of years. So they know his personality. They know if he makes a joke like that, he doesn't mean any harm by it. It ain't that fucking serious. But where he messed up was that obviously in today's climate, when they're protesting for, you know, George Floyd and Trayvon Martin, Alton Sterling, Breonna Taylor, and all these other people who lost their lives to senseless police brutality, and the protests are going on and people are yelling Black Lives Matter and things like that, you know, that's where he fucked up. You know, he should have just kept that within his circle of people who understood what, you know, the energy behind that statement. You know, because everybody's so sensitive. Like, I'm going to say this right now. Cancel culture is cancer culture. And I said this plenty of times last year. I started saying this back in 2018, I started saying this. But yeah, cancel culture is cancer culture. It is very cancerous. You know, I've never seen a generation of sensitive bullies before. Never. I've never seen a generation of motherfuckers who was so willing. It's like, the best way I can explain this shit, it's like these tournament organizers and these companies, they're picking and choosing who, it's almost like they're cherry picking who they want to make the villain out of the situation. And even though Filipino Champ for like a long time, I believe he started, I think during the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 tournaments, you know, like he started dubbing himself as the villain of the FGC or something like that, right? And they said that he had other questionable, you know, things that he has done in the past, which if it was that big of a deal, they would have banned him long ago, you know, so they never did it. So I guess ever since that Low Tier God and Cyril Blast situation, for those of you who are not familiar with that, you know, Cyril Blast, he's a guy that considers himself a non-binary trans female. As much of a contradiction as that, as much of an oxymoron as that statement is, I mean, it's on his Twitter page. So, for those of you who don't know about that, let me just summarize it. So, Low Tier God, you know, anybody who watched Low Tier God since like 2014, they know anytime he plays Street Fighter and he goes up against somebody that he feels isn't better than him, but because the game may be laggy or because the system of the game favors a certain skill level, and they beat him by either by trolling or just doing some like random stuff, what he does is, you know, it's traditional for him to, you know, either rage quit, find the name of the person that he was going up against, ban him, and then do like just like a little 2-minute rant on like a 60-second rant on him, talking about anything about him. Like, he didn't went from talking about people's body types and, you know, just a bunch of shit. But that's what he does. He's been doing that. So apparently him and Cyril Blast have, you know, had a history of Cyril Blast, you know, all the way back to 2014 and such. And Cyril Blast has been trying to get sponsored for like years. And so after all the years of Cyril Blast, you know, trolling him on like various, you know, iterations of Street Fighter online, in this particular game in Street Fighter 5, I think he was using Ken, and I think Low Tier God was using Gil or whatever. And then, you know, he was, you know, Cyril Blast was trolling him again. He was like waking up with like sweep and like all these unsafe things and all these random things. And, you know, Low Tier God, in typical fashion, he got fed up, you know, rage quit from the game, found his name, blacklisted him on that account, and he just went on a rant. But the rant that he did was kind of attacking, you know, the fact that, you know, he's confusing people, that Cyril Blast is confusing people. You know, one day he's calling himself a she, how he's not fully committed to being a woman like he claims he wants to be, etc., right? So somebody clipped that video, but regardless who clipped it, Cyril Blast used it, and he basically tried to use sympathy to try to get him a sponsorship, right? Here's where the bullshit starts. Cyril Blast, you know, people started coming out of the woodworks and started talking about how Cyril Blast, you know, is playing victim when he was a victimizer his damn self. It's like, how dare the victimizer all of a sudden act like the victim out of no fucking where, and somebody even called him out on some of the bullshit that he did. You know, somebody exposed that, one of the black guys that was commenting underneath that tweet where he used that clip to try to build sympathy for himself, to try to get a sponsorship that way. He had mentioned that one of the guys that had tweeted underneath that and said, well, what about that time you called me a basement nigga? When the guy had receipts. I believe the dude had receipts. But following that, of course, when LTG made that rant and a video got put out, they banned him from tournaments, which doesn't hurt him because LTG doesn't go to tournaments. So that's like, he's bringing more attention to the event by him being there than by not being there, but whatever. It's good PR. And once it was revealed that Cyril Blast had a history of racism in his damn self, well, LTG wasn't being racist. He was just being mean. He didn't attack the dude race. But Cyril Blast definitely had said some racist shit to, like, he called a black dude a basement nigga at one point. And it's like, you do that type of shit, but you sit there and you trying to build sympathy off somebody making fun of you. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you want to be called. And he had the nerve to say Low Tier God was confusing kids, but I've been a Cyril Blast streams. He's like, he don't even know what the hell he want to be, but I'm not trying to attack him. You know what I mean? I'm just keeping 100. Some days he's dressing like a female, other days he's dressing like a male. Then you say you're a non-binary transgender that identifies as a she, but non-binaries don't identify as a male or a female. You know what? Never mind. But yeah, so they've banned people like this before, and Filipino Champ is like the third person that they have banned from tournaments. But now here's the thing. I paid attention to the FGC. I'm not going to say nobody else's names, but I will say this. They are picking and choosing who they want to label as the villain in this shit, right? And they're trying to promote that, these events are safe for people to come to, and they don't have to worry about facing any type of discrimination whatsoever, which is good. Again, good PR. But the thing is, you're cherry picking, because if you're going to look at something like with Filipino Champ, and I'm not saying what he did was right. He should have been smarter than to put that online, especially in this climate. It should have just left that in the circle that understood that, you're not racist and all that right there, and he wouldn't have to face all this rhetoric that he's facing right now. Because Filipino Champ's not racist. I know for, what I'm saying, he's not racist at all. Ultra David, he two-faced as hell. I don't want to speak about Ultra David. I just will say that when East Coast Throwdown and CEO announced that they were banning Filipino Champ, Ultra David was the first person on both of those tweets that said, good job, friends. And I'm just like, didn't you yourself back in 2007 mention how you didn't feel safe about all the other ethnicities around there because you're a wealthy white male and you don't carry no more than $50 in your pocket because you thought you were going to get robbed? I'm telling you, boy, these closet motherfuckers, man, it's amazing, ain't it? You don't feel safe. Right. But yeah. I digress. But yeah, it was people that did way worse than that. People who threatened to fight at your events. But you're not looking at those tweets, though. You're looking at, somebody making a Watermelons Live Matter joke in comparison to somebody coming in there to your event saying that they're going to beat somebody up, when there have been events, well, only one event really. It was an EA Sports football event where somebody came with a gun and shot up the event and killed people. You know what I mean? I would think that somebody who, you know, these tournament organizers would be more open to who's doing what. But of course, they're picking and choosing because they want to make a statement with the most famous names out there. So, it is what it is. Hey, hold up, wait a minute, I'm coming in. I know. I had to walk, shit.
Yeah, man. Oh, because there's a no Uber?
Nah, ain't no.
That car got this.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of them situations where, you know what I mean? They're picking and choosing. They're not, 37 minutes late, goddamn. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, man. Like, I'm gonna speak more on it when I get to the house, but it's just messed up that, you know, that happened. I mean, it's his fault because he shouldn't have never put it online, knowing, you know, failing to remember that we're living in a very sensitive climate that just wants to, that people don't fully understand what the hell they're canceling. In that aspect, I wish we were still living in the 90s. I mean, I'm glad we're not, because a lot of things were hidden in the 90s that are getting exposed now. But in terms of just sensitivity and people being able to take a goddamn joke, I know it was an insensitive joke. I'm not talking about his in particular, but I'm just talking about the sensitivity overall of society, where it's just like people are following this trend of, you know, let's cancel somebody. Because it's almost like this society has breeded a group of people to just wait in like the bushes and wait for somebody to be labeled as the villain. You know what I mean? It's like they wait in the bushes, wait till somebody gets labeled as a villain, and then they jump out and talk about cancel, 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 cancel. And they don't even fully understand what happened themselves. They just know that everybody's talking about cancel this guy, so let's cancel him. You know what I mean? So, I know for a fact it was people that was commenting under those, they were commenting underneath those tweets by CEO and Throwdown when they announced they was banning Filipino Champ. And they never knew what he was being banned for. They was just like, good. So the only thing I could take from that is that y'all just, like, he hasn't competed in any tournament since 2018. So, and I think the last tournament he really participated in was an invitational. It was an invitational, meaning that he was personally invited. You know, I think it was that, what was it? I think it was that, that Marvel vs. Capcom 3 invitational or something like that. But yeah, man, it's just, you know, people picking and choosing, cherry picking who they want to be the villain and trying to jump on that bandwagon and trying to make themselves look like a hero. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to look like the hero, but nobody wants to understand why the hero is needed. You know what I mean? Just like you got people out there protesting right now. Like I told y'all about the police officer that was in Atlanta who was talking to the protesters and how they were going, how the police officers were going and getting the looters, and the looters didn't even know who George Floyd was. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like people just jumping on a bandwagon trying to make themselves look like, you know, the good guy when they're really the villain themselves. So, and let's be honest, a lot of these people that's happy that Filipino Champ is banned are people that just couldn't beat him in the tournament anyway, so they feel like now they actually got a chance. But I'm going to expound on that when I get back home. So I got to, you know, head to work. So, yeah, we're going to leave that there. So thank you guys for watching. Peace. Remember, stand in truth always. You'll never have to worry about living in the realm of a lie. And remember, be humble in victory, be gracious in defeat, show no mercy in battle. World Warriors Collective.